Top 10 Unsolved Mysteries of Ancient Egypt. Number 10 The Lost Labyrinth of Egypt. 2,500 years prior, there was a monstrous maze in Egypt that, in the expressions of one who saw it, surpassed even the pyramids. It was a gigantic structure, 2 stories tall. Inside, there were an inconceivable 3,000 distinct rooms, all associated through a twisting labyrinth of entries so intricate that no one could get themselves out without a guide. At the base, there was underground level that filled in as a burial chamber for rulers, and at the top was an enormous rooftop made out of a solitary colossal stone. Countless antiquated journalists depicted having seen it firsthand. However, after 2,500 years, we actually aren't sure where it is. The nearest thing we found to it is an enormous 300-meter wide, 1,000 feet, stone level that some accept was previously the establishment of the maze. In the event that it is, however, the popular narratives have been totally lost to time. In 2008, a group of georadar experts filtered the level and found that there appears to an underground maze actually like the one old journalists described. As of yet, however, no one has at any point exhumed it or ventured inside. Until someone makes it into the maze, we will not know without a doubt whether we've truly tracked down Egypt's most noteworthy archaeological marvel. Number 9 The Unknown Queen of Egypt. In 2015, archaeologists unearthed the burial chamber of a lady who was covered among the extraordinary pyramids of the Old Kingdom of Egypt. In her burial place were engravings calling her both the spouse of the ruler and the mother of the king. 4,500 years prior, when this lady was alive, she would have been perhaps the main individuals in the world. She would have had more noteworthy force than some other lady in the country. Furthermore, no one knows who she is. Historians have named her Khentakaeus III, under the supposition that she was the little girl of Queen Khentakaeus II. They accept she may have been the spouse of Pharaoh Neferefre and the mother of Pharaoh Nekhar, yet they don't actually have the foggiest idea. They're simply guessing. If her name was Khentakaeus III, at that point there are no references to her at all in anything we've at any point found. Whoever she was at one time an unfathomably influential lady. However, today, she is minimal in excess of a mystery. Number 8 The Sphinx of Israel. In 2013 in Tel Hazer, Israel, archaeologists discovered something they'd never expected to discover so distant from Egypt, a 4,000-year-old Egyptian sphinx. Specifically, they found the paws of the sculpture laying on a base. The remainder of it, it's accepted, was intentionally obliterated millennia prior. Before someone overturned it however, it would have been 1 meter, 3.3 feet. Tall and gauged a large portion of a ton. Nobody understands what an Egyptian sculpture was doing in Israel. The lone hint abandoned is an engraving on the bas that bears the name Lord Mycerinus, the name of a pharaoh who administered over Egypt around 2500 BC. It's profoundly far-fetched that Tel Hazer was vanquished by the Egyptians. During the rule of Mycerinus, also known as Mankor, Tel Hazer was an exchanging center point Canaan, straightforwardly among Egypt and Babylon. It was fundamental to the financial prosperity of 2 of the greatest forces in the area. Our most realistic estimation is that it was a blessing. On the off chance that it was a blessing, however, it's not satisfactory why King Mycerinus sent it, or, besides, why anybody blew up enough to break it. All we truly know without a doubt is that for reasons unknown, someone fabricated a sphinx 1,000 kilometers, 600 miles, away from the Great Sphinx of Giza. Number 7 The Mysterious Death of King Tut. Ruler Tutankhamun was just 19 years of age when he passed on, and no one knows without a doubt what occurred. His demise is a finished secret, however not on the grounds that he was in an amazing prime. The explanation that Tut's passing is such a secret is that there were such countless things amiss with him that it's difficult to tell which one completed him off. King Tut was in horrible well-being. He had intestinal sickness, for a certain something, and he was brought into the world with such countless hereditary incapacities that students of history are persuaded his folks probably been sibling and sister. He had a club foot and hereditary imperfections that, some accept, may have made his passing just a matter of time. He additionally had a broken skull that, for quite a while, was thought by archaeologists to be an indication that he'd been wounded in the head. Today, it's accepted that his head just got harmed while his body was being preserved, yet the likelihood that he was killed hasn't been managed out. He broke his knee instantly before he kicked the bucket, which has led to a hypothesis that he was killed in a chariot mishap. On the off chance that he was, however, getting on that chariot in any case was a bizarre choice. Tut was twisted to the point that he was unable to try and remain without somebody setting him up. For it might have been anything, or it might have been an entire slew of various things influencing him on the double. The solitary thing we know without a doubt is that King Tut didn't get a ton of uplifting news in his last month alive. Number 6. The Hidden Chamber of the Great Pyramid. The best pyramid of all was constructed 4,500 years prior for Pharaoh Khufu. It is enormous construction, just about 150 meters, 490 feet, tall, worked with more than 2.3 million stone squares. But then, up to this point, there just appeared to be 3 chambers inside. If that appears to be a ton of squandered space for you, you're in good company. That is the reason a group checked the pyramid in November 2017 to check whether there was anything they missed. Adequately sure, over the Great Gallery of the pyramid, they discovered signs that there may be an enormous secret chamber as extensive as the greatest room in the entire pyramid. 5. The unusual thing is that the Egyptians intentionally constructed the secret chamber to be totally out of reach. There are no passages or pathways associated with it. The solitary way they might have put anything inside is assuming they filled the chamber while they were building the pyramid, fixed it up afterward. We actually haven't seen within the secret chamber. In any case, whatever isn't there, Pharaoh Khufu obviously didn't need it to at any point come around. Number 5. The mummy wrapped in a foreign book. In 1848, a man paid an antiquated Egyptian mummy off of a business person in Alexandria. For quite a long time, he put it in plain view as an embellishment, not understanding how peculiar of a curio he'd found. Subsequent to stripping off her gauzes years and years after the fact, however, researchers discovered something uncommon. The mummy had been enclosed by the material pages of a book, and it wasn't written in Egyptian. 6. It required long periods of examination to sort out what language it was, yet today we realize that it is written in Etruscan, the language of an antiquated human advancement that once lived in cutting-edge Italy. It's a language we think minimally about. The words folded over this mummy make up the longest Etruscan text we've ever found. There are still a ton of inquiries left unanswered, however. For a certain something, we actually don't have the foggiest idea what the content says. We can just comprehend a couple of words, which appear to be dates and the names of divine beings, and past that, we can just conjecture with regards to what it means or why anybody would fold it over a dead body. Above all, we have no clue about why an Etruscan book was folded over a mummy in Egypt. Is it safe to say that she was Etruscan? Provided that this is true, what was she doing in Egypt? What's more, what did she put in her last message to the world? Number 4. The Dentra Light. On the mass of a sanctuary in Dentra, Egypt, there is a gigantic help showing an odd picture. It shows, as per the standard translation, a snake in a major wad of fire flying out of a lotus bloom while being held up by a column with human arms. It's a strange picture, however, not on the grounds that the column has arms. It simply ends up looking precisely like a model of a Crookes tube, a sort of early light developed in the 19th century. 7. Truth be told, it would appear that such an excess of like a light that a few group think it could possibly be a chart showing the best way to make one. Admittedly, that is the sort of hypothesis you as a rule hear proposed by tall-haired lunatics on the History Channel, however they have some frightfully persuading arguments. The room that shows the Dentra light is the lone room in the entire sanctuary that didn't have fire-consuming lights. Archaeologists have discovered buildup that shows Egyptians copied lights in each and every piece of the structure with the exception of this one. So in the event that they didn't have an early form of a light put away in here, how could they see anything? Also, if the room was totally dark, For what reason did they trouble putting a particularly mind-boggling picture on the divider? Number 3. The destroyed pyramid. The Pyramid of Djeffer ought to have the most elevated place of any pyramid in Egypt. Djeffer ensured it. He didn't have the assets to fabricate the greatest pyramid, however he utilized a little workaround to ensure the tip of his burial chamber was a tiny bit of touch taller than everyone else's. In any case, he assembled it on a hill. For some explanation, however, while the wide range of various pyramids of Egypt are as yet remaining following millennia, Djeffer's pyramid alone has been absolutely destroyed. 8. All that is left is the base. Nobody's altogether clear on what befallen it, yet there are hypotheses. Some think that Djeffer essentially kicked the bucket before they had the option to complete a large part of the work, and his pyramid was left in ruins. Others believe that Romans quarried it for the stones 2,000 years prior, destroying a monstrous chronicled landmark. Furthermore, still others believe that individuals of Egypt very, truly abhorred Djeffer, to such an extent that they were able to separated a whole pyramid barely in a spirit of meanness. Number 2. The disappearance of Queen Nefertiti. Sovereign Nefertiti is unbelievable for being one of only a handful few ladies to govern over Egypt. She was the spouse of Pharaoh Akhenaten, likely the mother of Pharaoh Tutankhamun, and is accepted to have assumed control over Egypt and controlled by her own doing. But, while the burial chambers of different pharaohs actually overshadow Egypt today, no one has at any point tracked down Nefertiti's last resting place. The look for her burial place has continued for quite a long time. Up until 2018, archaeologists were nearly persuaded that they'd discovered her interment place in a mysterious chamber covered up in King Tut's burial place. In May, however, they fastidiously checked the divider and found that there was nothing there. Curiously, there's no notice of her passing in Egyptian history, all things considered. After about the 12th year of her significant other Akhenaten's rule, all notice of her stops through and through. Some accept this is on the grounds that she became pharaoh and took on an alternate name, yet not every person agrees. Some believe that the response to this secret is a smidgen more everyday than we may trust. As per Dr. Joyce Tidsley, the easiest clarification is only that Nefertiti was never a pharaoh at all. 9. Dr. Tidsley accepts that individuals overplayed Nefertiti during the 1920s in light of the fact that a model of her face got well known, and they simply needed her to be mainstream gravely enough to think it. According to Dr. Tidsley, the clarification is straightforward. We don't have a clue what befallen Nefertiti since she simply wasn't that significant of an individual. Number 1. The Lost Land of Punt. Old Egyptian compositions are loaded with references to a spot called Punt. It was an antiquated African realm loaded with gold, ivory, and colorful creatures that energized the Egyptians' minds. What's more, it probably been amazingly incredible. It was a spot that deserved the admiration of the Egyptians, a land they had named God's land. There's no doubt that Punt existed. There are endless notices of it in antiquated works. There's even an image of the sovereign of Punt in an old Egyptian sanctuary. Be that as it may, regardless of how incredible and significant this spot probably been, we've never discovered it. That just follows we have a Punt are the relics the Egyptians kept. Researchers, frantic to sort out where this realm was, considered the embalmed stays of two mandrels that the Egyptians got from Punt and verified that the monkeys, at any rate, had come from the zone of advanced Eritrea or eastern Ethiopia. This, in any event, gives us a beginning stage in the chase to discover Punt, yet it's an immense region for an archaeological hunt. What's more, on the off chance that we at any point do discover the remnants of the kingdom of Punt, it'll open up an entirely different arrangement of secrets to address to reveal our past.